What's up, YouTube? Tiffy, Stacey here, and I'm back, as I always say, with another video. And today's video is going to be about basically a video response to a podcast that I was listening to a couple of months ago about why black relationships are failing. And I'll post the link in the description box down there so you all can listen and come up with your own point of views on that. But one thing that in this particular podcast that Mr. Moody and Cousin Ed came up with, they basically gave their reasons why they thought relationships were failing on the women's side of things and why it was failing on the men's side of things. And I think Cousin Ed came up with a really brilliant point on why relationships are failing on the men's side of things, and that's because there is a lack of empathy. And if you're not sure with what empathy means, I have my dictionary right here, and this is in no way of me being a smart aleck or anything, but I just wanted to give you guys just a brief description of what this means. And it means that it's understanding so intimate that the feelings, thoughts, and motives of one are readily comprehended by another. And I didn't think that was the best description or the best definition, so I went to sympathy, since sympathy is considered a synonym of empathy. And this definition for sympathy is a relationship or affinity between persons or things in which whatever affects one correspondingly affects another. And I thought that was the best description because, honestly, when I was listening to this podcast, when Cousin Ed said this, it hit the nail on the head for me, because I feel like I've experienced a lack of empathy in the majority of my relationships that I've been in. And that's not to say that the guys that I've been with were bad people. It's just that I felt like there was times when they were kind of insensitive to my feelings. And you know, this is particularly my previous relationship that I was in. Sometimes I would explain to my ex-boyfriend a particular situation or how I was feeling about a particular thing, and his response would sometimes be, is that really that big of a deal? Or like, that's it, you know? And it would really piss me off, because I'm like, you know, here I'm opening up myself to you, and I don't even feel like you support me. I don't feel like you have my back. But let me just tell you guys right now, anything that comes out of your woman's mouth, it's important. You know, it could be like the most stupidest thing ever, but it's important. You have to listen to her. That's just like my parents, for example. My dad's pretty empathetic, but, you know, I mean, he definitely listens. But for some reason, I always thought this was like a funny situation. I remember my mom, she wanted a bag of cheese popcorn from the store, and right before my dad left, my mom was like, give me a bag of cheese popcorn. And she kept saying it. She said it like 2 other times, like, cheese popcorn. And, well, he came home with a bag of Cheetos. Now, I don't know how he got that mixed up. I don't know. But that was the thing. Like, and I remember him saying, he's like, well, he goes, I remember you saying cheese something. And she was so upset. But that's the thing. Even if you don't think that particular detail was important, it was an important detail. That cheese popcorn was an important detail. But, you know, I feel like when you don't listen and you don't try to understand us, it's one of the worst things that you can do to us in a relationship, because it completely shuts us down. And you know, I always feel like, why should a woman have to go to her girlfriends in order to get some sympathy? You know, we should as women be able to go to our man and get that sympathy. And I understand that a lot of men are not taught that when they're growing up, but if you want a successful relationship, it's something that needs to be learned. And it takes time. It definitely takes time. And I think that oftentimes it gets overlooked, you know, in relationships. And to me, I will honestly say that when it comes to sympathy, empathy, whichever word you want to use, I think it's probably one of the number one thing. It's the number one thing that makes a relationship successful. But that's just me. I mean, it could be different things for all of you, but I feel like my relationships probably would have been better if I got that sympathy. And the thing is, when you lack sympathy in your relationship, it causes the relationship to be a lot less enjoyable, and it kind of creates like a disconnect and lack of understanding. And it's hard because that's when the arguments come in. That's when the miscommunication comes in, and things are misinterpreted because we try to go to you and we want this support, but we don't always get it in return. So actually, in situations where your girlfriend or your wife comes home to you and they're like complaining about their job or, a particular coworker, and, sometimes all we want to hear you say is, honey, like, it'll be okay, or, God, that guy's such a jerk. Why is he doing that? We don't always want you to solve our problems. We just want you to listen and understand where we're coming from. But there's always a special case. And one thing that Cousin Ned brought up was the fact that, like a situation with like a woman, she has a headache, and she's complaining about having a headache, and the guy's response is to get an aspirin. Now, I will say this. That's not what we want to hear. When we're sick and we're saying that we're sick, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear like, well, why don't you go and get something? No, we want to hear that, like, oh, baby, like, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to take care of it? We want to hear that. We don't want to hear, because to us that sounds insensitive, like you really don't care about how we feel. You're not trying to help us. So, and I actually have a story for that. There's a friend of mine that I went out with last year, and we went out partying. We had such a good time, and I drank a little bit too much that night, and I knew I was gonna regret it in the morning, but I didn't even care. Hey, don't let it fool you. I can party for real. So, but I went out. Or I went home, and my friend ended up coming home with me, and I didn't think anything of it. So the next morning I got up, I was really, really sick. I kept running to the bathroom, and meanwhile he was just sitting on the TV, watching TV, clicking the remote. It was ridiculous. So as he was getting ready to head out, I asked him if he could go and pick me up a bottle of orange juice, and I was gonna pay for it, no biggie. It was only like a 2-minute walk from my apartment. Well, he just like kind of looked at me and he goes, well, why can't you go get it? And I'm like, I'm sick. Like, I can't believe you didn't realize that the many times I was running to the bathroom that, I wasn't that, I was just doing that just for the heck of it. And I go, well, yeah, I'm sick. And his response to me was, well, you're just being lazy. Well, needless to say, that was the last time we talked. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't want to hear that. And even though I didn't have a romantic feelings towards this guy, it was very insensitive, and I just wanted him to understand. So, hey, it's like, you have to definitely do that. And I got notes here if you're like wondering what I'm looking at, because I had so many things to say on this topic. And one thing about the reason why we act crazy, because a lot of you guys say that, oh, well, women, they're so crazy. Most of the time, we're emotional people, but most of the time it's because we feel misunderstood. We want to be, understood. So that's the bottom line. That's what we want you to understand us. We want you guys to be compassionate towards us. And actually, the mother of all comments that I've ever, like, probably the most insensitive comment I've ever heard in my life came from a guy that I dated about 5 years ago. Some of you know I had a sibling, my brother. He had passed in 2005, and I was dating a guy at the time, and I was, kind of going through a lot of things, and I thought he was kind of my shoulder to lean on. So I remember just rambling on about something about my brother, and his response to me was, "You're still not over that?" Now, who in their right mind would say that to another human being? And needless to say, that didn't work out either. But that was his own fault. So, you know what? Here's the thing, you guys. Don't be like that guy. Try to understand your woman. And you know what? A lot of you guys are capable. I've seen it. You guys are capable of being compassionate and sympathetic towards your lady. I've seen it. It can happen. So, hey, thanks for watching my video, and I'll be back. All right, keep it Tiffy.